Hi, I'm Emily, and I want to talk to you about Obama's Making Home Affordable plan. And I'd like to let people know the ways in which to navigate to hopefully make it easier for you than it has been to us, and maybe avoid some of the frustrations and pitfalls that we've encountered and continue to encounter. Our lender is Wells Fargo. We found out about the Making Home Affordable plan over the internet at the beginning of April and called the lender and asked what we could do because my husband's been on unemployment 9 months. We're having trouble making ends meet. We've been through all of our savings just about, and so everything you read says call right away before you become delinquent. So we did, and they told us that we were excellent candidates for the Making Home Affordable program to possibly receive a loan modification. They sent us an application packet, and they emphasize we need to diligently fill it out in a timely manner. We need to have everything in the order they suggest and the exact documentation, because we could be denied based solely on not having the correct documentation. So we called and called, and each time we talked to a different representative, and each time we were told different things. You should have this, no, you should have that, which was counter to what the actual application said. So it was very confusing. So we just included everything that we could, hoping to cover all of our bases, so to speak. We did get it in. We got a call from Wells Fargo, which we were very pleased with. They called us and said, we received your packet. We are reviewing it. We will be back in touch with you when we decide your eligibility. So we read that they had 30 days to do this according to a law Congress passed. And it had been over 30 days. So I called, got another representative. They said, oh yes, it is being reviewed, and you will be called by another representative. They will let you know very soon whether or not you qualify. So we were really encouraged by this, and still, weeks went by, we never heard. So I called again, and since then I had talked to a friend who was going through the same thing with Wells Fargo. Her husband, who was a carpenter, just like my husband, was on unemployment for actually longer, 2 years instead of 9 months. They were have been going through the home modification process for over 6 months, and said that they finally got a processor assigned to their case. So when I called this time, I asked, who my processor was that was assigned to my case, and what was the status on our application. And she looked at her computer and said, well, it hasn't been reviewed yet. According to my computer, your processor has not yet received, she has not yet opened, your case, and so it's probably sitting on a pile in her desk. And I said, but we just received a call saying that they're reviewing our case and we'd know soon. And she kind of laughed and said, well, according to my computer, she has not yet opened the case, so I don't have access to anything that it's about. And I said, well, I'd like the processor's name and extension. So she eventually gave it to me, and I started to call our processor, called several different times, never got a call back. So eventually I kept calling, and I eventually got her on the phone. And she asked me a few questions, and then she said, well, unfortunately, because your husband's on unemployment, you do not qualify. And I said, but we were told we qualify based on, that was one of the things that it was based on, is that he is on unemployment. She said, yes, but you have to have 9 months of unemployment left for the date of application. And that was April 8th for us. And we said, well, we do have 9 months. If you include the extensions, it does have the date of April or August 22nd on there, but that's just for the first round of unemployment benefits. But because Congress passed the extensions law, we actually have longer. And she kind of giggled and said, well, I can only go with what my tool or computer program says, and it says that it's up August 22nd, so I really can't help you. And I said, but we have 9.5 months left if you include the extensions, and there's no lapse in payments. All you have to do is call this hotline, and when your unemployment from one particular time runs out, and they reinstate it. I said, we have 2 extensions left, which is about 22 weeks or better. We were about 6 weeks into one extension. So altogether we had 9.5 months. So I said, we have over 9 months. So we do qualify. And she said, well, I can't consider the extensions because my computer program doesn't allow that. And I said, but the unemployment system is set up in such a way that they only allocate benefits in 6-month increments. So nobody anywhere in the United States can get more than 6 months of unemployment at a time. I know that for a fact in Hawaii, and according to the State Unemployment Agency, it says most states in America are the same way. 6 months is the maximum amount that you can get at a time, and then you get an extension or 2 depending on where you live and how much unemployment benefits you received. And I said, so it's an impossibility for somebody to have 9 months. And she giggled and said, well, that's true. That's why I've never seen anybody on unemployment receive a loan modification. And I was really irritated, and I said, well, then who is this for? To help? She said, well, it's to help people who have lowered income. And I said, well, isn't unemployment lowered income? And she laughed again and said, well, yes, but it doesn't count for people on unemployment. And I said, but we were pre-qualified knowing that we were on unemployment. Each time we talked to somebody, they never mentioned that unemployment would disqualify us. And I said, would you consider not closing our case for a couple days so that I could get some extra documentation from the unemployment office that states specifically what his extensions are? Even though it said on the document we sent, it said how much he has left, and then it also said that at different levels you have this many extensions, and it says his particular situation and the amount of extensions he has. But she wouldn't consider that. I said, would you please consider additional documentation? And she said, well, I would, except for they closed your account last week. You were denied. And I said, well, nobody contacted me. That was one of the rules we read about in the application, that you are to be contacted as to whether you are eligible or denied. I've received nothing in writing either. And of course the processor didn't know why that was. It wasn't her fault, of course. So we were really irritated and disappointed, and I said, well, are there any other programs that we could possibly qualify for or look into? And she said, no, not in your situation. So she basically hung up on us, and it's been about a month, and we've still received nothing in writing. And many people I've talked to have been through something similar, and they have lost their information, they've lost their applications, and people have to send them back. It's almost as if the lenders are doing everything they can in order to not give people modifications or refinance as the government requested. And maybe the fact that there is little to no regulation is part of it. They say that if you do have problems, to call a HUD counselor. So we've been trying to do that for about a week and a half. And each time you call, you talk to 2 different operators and give all of your information each time. And I waited on the phone for 45 minutes last time. Never got through to anybody. I got disconnected once. Then I made an appointment because we were not delinquent yet on our bills. So she said, well, you can make an appointment and speak to a HUD counselor, only they neglected to tell us that they're on Eastern Standard Time, and they said your appointment's at 10:30, and they called me at 4:30 in the morning. Of course, I wasn't quite ready for the call yet, so I'm going to